John, what's he dealing with right now, and do you have a timeline exactly of when he'll be able
John.
to play Emery?
John is in good standing with the program. He's done everything that we've asked him to do. Any other comments would put me in conflict with the Buckley Amendment.
Do you have an exact game that he'll be able to play by?
Yes, Game 3. Guys, get out your slide rule, figure that one out. Got this one all covered now.
Right here, Coach.
Yes.
One, is there an update on the injury report for today?
Yes.
And then two, how would you evaluate Denver Harris's first preseason under your leadership?
So the guys that I had on the report, Amani Goodwin is out. He's working hard to get back, but he'll be out for this weekend. Josh Williams is probable, and we've upgraded chemo to probable. So both of those guys will travel, and again, they'll be probable. So again, I think that's a good sign from the injury report. We weren't sure. I mean, we felt like Amani was going to be a tough one with the hamstring, and he's working hard, but it's probably going to be another week. Denver is in that process of learning how to do things, a little bit differently than he had been doing it before. So, it's becoming, clear to him what he needs to do on a day-to-day basis to find the field here. And look, he's got a lot of ability. But it's more in this program than just having athletic ability. He's got to do the work in the classroom. He's got to do the work, in terms of the day-to-day details and making good choices, good decisions, and he's making progress there. But it's a journey for him right now.
Coming up on this weekend's game, LSU has done very well in neutral site games. However, they've been in a little bit of a drought. Does playing in neutral site games have any effect to your game plan, or any effect at all?
No, not really. I mean, I think we have to prepare for, crowd noise situations that, at a neutral site. For example, we were in New Orleans. That neutral site, you tend to think that that's going to favor the home team from Louisiana, where you probably don't spend as much time on crowd noise. We spent more time on crowd noise here for this neutral site game in Orlando, expecting it maybe to be a little bit more of a tilt towards Florida State. So, I think those neutral site games, you kind of, try to figure out, what that split's going to be relative to the fans. And so how it affected this game plan was just simply that, work on crowd noise.
Brian, a guy we haven't talked to quite a lot about maybe this preseason is Brian Thomas. What have you seen out of him? Where do you think maybe he's at kind of heading into this year?
Yeah, I like where he's at. I mean, I like his look, I thought Brian last year, was a bit sloppy at times in terms of, all the things that he needed to do. His attention to detail wasn't great. This year it's so much better. The summer he was outstanding in the classroom. I just see a more mature guy, a guy that is handling his business in a different way. I like where he's at. I really do. I think we're going to see a lot of good things from Brian this year.
I actually have thought about asking a better version of the question I asked you on the teleconference yesterday. So I actually have thought
Listen,
about it.
I'm not. Look, I'm trying to be better as a coach every day.
That's I understand. LSU's brand in general, with all the sports and all the athletes and all the former athletes who are doing so well, it just seems like every time you turn around, somebody's doing something. Does that help your program at all in terms of awareness, especially when you go, out of state in recruiting, or is it just football?
No, the LSU brand is strong. It's more than just football. I think that the success that it has had has broadened its appeal much more than just, you know, an SEC school. It's seen as a national major brand, and you know, that's a powerful thing. It's not a regional brand; it's a national brand. There's a difference. You know, there's some SEC schools that just have regional appeal. LSU has a national appeal, and certainly that attracts you know, student athletes and helps you in recruiting from all over the country. So, no, and look, I'm beginning to see that more and more, and I think it has a lot to do with the successes of the programs, the other programs, there's no doubt. But the fan base is not just passionate, but it's active, right? It's you can see it in its social media appeal. You can see it how active it is, and I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Coach, can you talk about the cornerback and the safety room? A lot of pundits and people focusing on that group and the question marks there. What would you say their attitudes are, or what they want to prove? What are those guys like?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're in a similar position that we were last year in a sense that, you know, you had Jarek Bernert Converse, you had, you know, Kobe coming out for the first time, you had Mekhi Garner, you know, had guys that nobody knew of, and you're going to have a similar situation again this year. I just think that these guys have competed really well against top-notch receivers for the last, you know, 6 weeks, and they're ready to go play somebody else. They know they've got a great challenge ahead of them with the wide receivers at Florida State, and they will all year against, you know, SEC competition. And I think the safeties feel the same way. So, you know, this is a corner safety group together that have to communicate well together, have to play together, and I just think that, you know, we're in a better place than we were last year because I think that the communication is so much better, and the understanding of what we want to accomplish. And so I think they've really worked well together. So I don't know that there's anything to prove as much as they just want to go out and compete.
Ryan, before we get into this game, is there anyone else who is, quote, unavailable other than Mason and John?
Mason and John, those are the only two guys that are not available to us. Yeah.
When y'all look at this game just from a coaching staff, I mean, there's so many different sort of matchups that are going to have to be critical in the outcome. What do you maybe identify as the ones that are going to ultimately influence, you think, the course of this game the most?
Probably what we just talked about, you know, the one-on-one matchups, you know, down the field. You know, the ball's going to get thrown down the field to some elite receivers, and, you know, we're going to have to make our share of plays down the field. You know, clearly, that's probably number one. Number two will be, you know, tackling their backs. You know, I think that's going to be an important part of this as well. You know, everybody knows you got to contain the quarterback in some fashion, but you know he's going to get his plays. I think it's just competing down the field for the football.